All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving headfirst into one of the biggest questions you can possibly ask. What is reality really? We're going to look at a framework that flips everything on its head, suggesting that the universe and even space-time itself might just be built from the bottom up out of something way, way simpler. Okay, let's get into it. We usually think of the universe like this, right? Space-time is this giant fixed stage, and all the particles and planets and galaxies are just the actors moving around on it. But what if that's totally backward? What if the stage doesn't come first? What if the actors actually build the stage as they go? So, on the left, that's the standard picture particles move through a pre-existing grid of space-time. Simple enough. But the idea we're digging into today is way more radical. It says that fundamental particles don't just exist in space-time, their structure is space-time. It's a huge shift in how we see everything. So here's the game plan for this explainer. First, we'll look at this new cosmic blueprint. Then we'll meet its fundamental building blocks, the T and V elements. We'll see how they snap together to make the particles we know, which leads to the huge reveal that spacetime isn't fundamental. And finally, we'll zoom out to the wild, holographic big picture. Okay, first up, the blueprint. Now, this whole model isn't built on super complex, high-level math. It's actually based on something called combinatorial principles, which is really just a fancy way of saying it's all about how a few simple things can combine in different ways to create all the complexity we see. Think of it less like physics and more like cracking a code. Instead of a chaotic zoo with dozens of different particles, what if the universe is just running on a simple program? A program with a tiny alphabet and a few very basic rules of grammar, but one that's powerful enough to write everything from an electron to a top quark. Our job, then, is to figure out that code. So, what is this cosmic alphabet? What are the letters that write reality? Well, this model boils it all down to just two fundamental letters. That's it, two. And they're called the T and V elements. Now, these T and V elements are a type of preon, which is a hypothetical particle that could be what quarks and leptons are made of. But in this model, they're not just another smaller Russian doll. No, they are the absolute rock bottom level of reality. The idea is that everything is just some combination of T's and V's. So how do we get from these abstract T's and V's to actual physics? Well, this table shows you how. It's a direct translation. Let's just take the top row there. You see the combination plus V, plus V, plus V. That's three V elements. The system's rules translate that directly into the mathematical coordinates you see on the right. 3/2, -3. Every single combination on the left generates a unique mathematical address on the right. And this is where the pure elegance of this whole thing just shines through. Once you have that mathematical address, that S-T pair, you can figure out a particle's properties with unbelievably simple rules. You want to know its electric charge? Easy. Just take the T value from its address and multiply by 1/3. Boom, that's it. It's that clean. All right, let's keep building. We've got our cosmic alphabet, the T's and V's, and we've got our simple grammar rules. So now for the real test. Can we actually assemble the familiar particles from the standard model using just this toolkit? And what's incredible is it seems to work. Just look at this. The entire particle zoo that physicists have discovered, all the quarks, leptons like the electron, even the bosons that carry forces, every single one can be plotted as a unique S-T point on this grid. They're not dozens of separate things anymore. They're just different arrangements of the same two basic parts. So, does this system actually predict things correctly? This is the real acid test. Now, these tables look complex, I get it, but the idea is dead simple. Just look at the top row on the left. You start with a single, simple coordinate, 0, 1. That's your only input. From that one little seed, the model's internal rules automatically generate all the other columns. The particle's name, its charge, its spin, literally all the complex quantum numbers that physicists use. It's not just describing them, it's deriving them from first principles. Okay, so this framework can build particles. That's pretty amazing. But everything so far has just been the warm-up act. Now we get to the main event, the most profound, reality-bending implication of this whole idea. The thing that challenges our deepest assumptions, the nature of space and time itself. This quote from the physicist Piotr Zenchikowski just nails it. Let that sink in for a second. The emergence of space is a byproduct of matter. He's saying we've had it completely backwards this whole time. Space isn't the container that holds matter. Space is what happens when matter exists and interacts. So let's be absolutely crystal clear on what this means. Those T and V elements, they're not tiny little balls floating around in three-dimensional space. No, the model proposes that they are the dimensional ingredients of space itself. A particle's structure isn't just located in space, its structure is a tiny piece of the fabric of space.
This idea is called radical compositeness. Normally when we say something's composite, we think of a house made of smaller bricks, but that's not what's going on here. It's more like a rich 3D virtual world being generated from simple, one-dimensional lines of code. The T and V elements are like that 1D code, and their interactions literally weave the 3D reality we experience into existence.
Okay, so this brings us to our final section. Let's pull the camera all the way back and look at the cosmic implications of this. If our 3D reality bubbles up from something more fundamental, what does that whole process actually look like? Well, the model suggests that something like the holographic principle is at work. What we see and touch and measure, what we call physical reality, is basically a projection. It's an image cast from a deeper, non-physical level. This level is described as being made of causal forms, or Rashan fundamentals, basically an immaterial blueprint that holds all the information for our physical world.
This table lays out that entire creation story, step by step. You start at the top in a purely immaterial phase, which is just pure information, the source code. Then that information transitions into potential T and V elements, which start to form a kind of pre-emergent spacetime. And then finally, at the bottom, those elements combine into the quarks and leptons we know, and that creates the emergent spacetime of our universe. It's the whole story, from a non-physical idea all the way up to the solid world around us.